Oh man.
Cool.
So for those that don't know, me and Chris work for a German company, and I was at happy hour with some of my German colleagues today, right before this podcast, and they were telling me, which I didn't know this. So you know how we have red and blue for our political parties, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, there are 6 different colors in Germany that are used for their various political parties. There's black, yellow, green, blue, light blue, which is a sub party of blue, and there's like one other one. I think it's purple. I might have said purple already. Yeah. But I didn't know that there were 6, and I wonder if that exists, like those different colors. That's insane. So apparently, it goes on the spectrum, right? So the very far left is like, very radical, and I'm not sure where the colors represent. But as you move along that spectrum towards like extreme left, and then like moderate left, and then like neutral, and so on and so forth, all the way to the conservative, I didn't know that they had that many colors, and like that's how they, break things down. Yeah.
Well, it's crazy here. Like in America, we have the red, the blue, but the red, the blue are the biggest and the baddest, right? We have a bunch of other little things that fall into here and fall into there, but honestly, when it comes down to election day, our masses they group towards one of the two.
It's true,
because they never get anything done if you pick Joe Schmo from around the corner that happens to be purple or burgundy or whatever.
Yeah. But I think that's so unfortunate, man, because if you think about it, I think that if you think of red and blue, right, like obviously 2 different spectrums, so the way that they would view certain things, but it almost represents to me like their specific views on various issues. And it's like, okay, do you lean this way or do you lean this way? And I think that with all of the issues that were presented within our country and around the world, I don't think that there's always like a left or a right solution. I think there's always like a middle solution.
Yeah.
And I think that people, and it's almost like people just want to be part of something so badly that they just like lean towards this extreme right and this extreme left. Because I think that no matter what issue it is, it doesn't matter like what's left or right. It's like, okay, what logically makes sense based on the facts and everything that we have.
And that's the thing, groupthink becomes really apparent when you start to talk politics sometimes. A lot of ideas aren't like built from myself. Ideas are passed down or pushed through a group of people. And if me and you kind of think the same, but then 10 of us kind of think the same, and we all capture a new idea from an outside source at the same time, and one person tells us kind of how to think that we trust's opinion, we kind of ingest that and take it as our own in a way, and we may ponder over it for a minute and find one falsehood in it for a second, but then it smooths over easy because it's coming from someone we trust, or the group that we associate that we trust says, yeah, it's kind of cool, we're good, just accept this like we do. So I see what you're saying with like the too big. But
and you think about your parents. Like, think about your parents as well and the political views that they have. Like, they have such a huge influence on the way that we think.
Definitely.
And, I mean, is that kind of where you were going? Like, the people that you trust? Or, like, were you saying, like, your friends as well? Or what were you...
Yeah, so just like you're saying, there's a spectrum of trust, Coming from your parents, I think at a certain age as well, that the spectrum shifts with age and knowledge. But... coming from your parents is like, oh man, I trust my parents, they haven't led me astray, if that's the situation. And okay, their word is truth, and what they believe seems pretty solid. It's gotten me this far, so I'll continue to believe what they believe. So we'll associate and put ourselves into the same groups. And then anything that you tell me from there, all right, cool. It must be pretty good. I mean, and most things line up. That's what it is, If me and you are talking about rights, obviously I'm going to slide into the, oh yes, I believe in rights, which then usually kind of slides into the, I believe in women's rights, I believe in men's rights, I believe in, so as long as we're not bouncing too far out of the realm, that trust will lock in the similar ideas with me,
When, and maybe a question to you, when did you challenge, so we were talking about, the spectrum of trust and like coming from your parents and whatnot, and I think that, when we're younger, like, and what you said, like what our parents say is truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if they don't know the answer, then the answer doesn't exist, right?
Exactly.
Like when we're 5 or 6, like if they're like, yeah, I don't know, then you're like, wow, the world doesn't know like what the answer to this is. So, I mean, do you remember at what age when you started really thinking about the decisions that your parents make, and or maybe the guidance that they would give you, and you started to challenge that? Like, do you remember any time you started like challenging that thinking? Yeah.
So for me, I kind of split the two. So you said two things there. One is started thinking about it, and two is actually challenging it. For me, I split that divide just a little bit, because I'm a non-confrontational guy. I try to stay smooth with my parents and all that. So I'll ingest a lot of what they have to say and then think on it, and I'm sure I'll agree with a decent bit of it. But every now and then there's a thing or two that pops just like, I feel otherwise, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut because we're at a family gathering or something, and we don't really need to dive into how I feel about it. But then sometimes it requires a little bit of action where, okay, we need to sit down and talk so I can express how I feel, and maybe that'll change your heart, because the trust at a certain age starts to kind of flow both ways, or should, maybe, It all depends on your relationship that you have, So I'll give you an example of one.
Sure.
Recently, the new minimum wage in Florida got passed, where it jumps to $15 an hour.
Over years, right?
Yeah, over
over like 3 or 4 years, something like that. Yeah.
So we get a $1 increase every year, all the way up to, I think, 2025 or something like that. And I was pro. I was pro. Actually, no, sorry, I was against it.
Oh, you were against. Okay.
And my father was for it, and I was like, we kind of broke it down. We broke it down. You see, and it took without getting too deep into it, it took a second.
No, what, dude? Say what you want to say. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the gist of it. He was giving me the. Actually, let me hear what you have to say about it first, and then I'll give you kind of how I feel.
Sure. So if we're talking about specifically, and I think the minimum wage, I don't think it's just Florida, right? I think it's the United States. Mm-hmm. So it's the United States.
It was passed in Florida first, so it's statewide.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think it passed on a United States level yet.
Okay. But Florida specifically, all right. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I think about it in a way that I guess I think any natural human would. I think about how it would affect me, because I think the most clear example and the example that people use the most around $15 an hour is like, okay, now when I go to McDonald's to get my Big Mac or my double cheeseburger, or I'm sorry, McDouble or whatever it is now, I'm going to be paying that guy $15 an hour to flip my burger, right? And if that's the case, what are they paying now? $7.25. Let's just double it for simple math. Ooh. Now my McDoubles now, which is already at $1.50 or whatever it is, now it's going to be $3, right? So the dollar menu is going to be obsolete, and then in general, prices for me are going to go up generally. There is another side to it though, but I still think there's a negative side to it. So now, if the employers are going to be forced to pay a higher wage, that means if they want to continually maintain the profits that they have or increase them, they're going to have to do probably one of two things. Well, they're going to have to do one thing, and it's going to be cut costs, right? How they cut costs is going to be dependent on the company. And I think they can do, in going off of the food and beverage example, they're either going to have to get the products that they serve themselves at a less expensive rate, right? Yeah. Or I guess they can do three things. The products that they get, less expensive. They have to become more efficient at their current processes on what they do for delivering to their customers, or they're going to need to eliminate some roles. Yeah. Right. So some jobs are going to be eliminated because, let's say, they're going to create a robot that can flip burgers, which I think they literally already made it in Japan or something. Japan is another thing. Japan is like all robots, but anyways.
Different economy.
That's what I think. I think that if they do that, yes, it will help people, but in turn, the prices of other things may go up. But at the same time, it will force companies to innovate if they still want to be profitable. But then that innovation, that could lead into potential job loss and I don't know, so on and so forth. But that's my opinion of it. So I guess I would say I'm not for it, but I do see that the cost of living is going up. right? Rents are going up. I mean, I'm a landlord, right? So I increase rents every year. Like other, I know that the prices of inflation is currently hitting us, right? Especially since all these stimulus checks. So I think inflation will just become more. So I don't know. I'm very against it. But I'm interested to hear like what you think in terms of at least what you were thinking around being. Well, no, you were against it, but then your dad was for it. So yeah, tell me what you think.
Yeah, so I myself was against it because
okay,
it's part of what we were talking about earlier, where we said, if someone's going to give me more money just for doing nothing or minimally nothing, I mean, yay, more money, right?
Yeah,
you'd think, but the money for me it's not in the money, it's in the individual. So I think we need to get people more money, but I think the way we're going about getting people more money is incorrect. So by giving more money for the same amount of work or the same amount of effort, that's where the problem lies. So I'll give the scenario of John the Bagger. John the Bagger at Walmart, John simply puts things in a bag. Does John need $15 an hour? Probably not. Depending on John's life situation, I don't know what's going on with John's life.
Yes.
But I know a lot of people fall into the $9 an hour job, the $8 an hour job. Those are the jobs for the high school individuals. And I agree with that. I understand that the population of high school individuals may not be able to supply the workforce as needed for the baggers. But, some of us make decisions to do less or to do more. But I think the way that this should have came, the money should have come from the businesses. So an idea I came up with is, what if we did some sort of tax cut for businesses if you have employees that are working and are paid higher? So we look at the average salary of a business, right? If you can get your average salary of your company up to this level, we will give you a tax cut. And we put it on a bracket. So now that incentivizes you as a company to take John the Bagger and put him in a training program. John the Bagger is now in a training program to achieve higher so that he can now become a manager. And now John the Bagger is being skilled, he's been trained, and he deserves to make that extra $15 now because he's worked for it. So a company themselves is not going to give away money for free, right? They're going to realize that, hey, I have to bump my my average salary up in order to hit this next bracket to catch a good cut, right? So let me train employees and then actually value them at a higher level, so I'll pay them a higher level because I'm not just going to give it to you for nothing. And I think
so what you're saying is you would think there would be, so in terms of I thought your tax idea was interesting because obviously large companies that are making millions and billions of dollars, they do everything that they can in order to avoid taxes, which makes sense. So you were saying that if they can get their employees up to a certain level of taxes, they would be able to write off an additional amount or there would be some sort of incentive program tied to raising their minimum wage to a certain threshold.
Exactly. So,
but then you also added like this training. So would it be like an investment? Would it be like they're also, so it would be in addition?
So I think by doing the tax cut, we'd incentivize them to say, hey, I need to raise my minimum wage or I need to raise what I'm paying my employees. But then you say, okay, in order to do that, they're not going to just give you more money. And the way that I would think that they would try to do it is to train you to get you to a higher level. Or somehow fit you into a position where you deserve the money. Because as a business, I've run a very small business before, and I don't want to give away free money just because,
No, for sure.
So I'm going to escalate your position or give you more responsibility where you deserve the money,
But then you could also say, so kind of taking an opposite point here, you could say that if you're training John the Bagger to elevate out of this position that he currently has, then once he elevates, now you're still out of a bagger.
That's true. You're right.
So you could, you know what I mean? Because you still almost need that lower, my air quotes, lower skilled position.
Yeah.
Right? And if we think of it in terms, it is a low skilled position, right? I mean, anybody can put things in a bag.
That's true. That's true. So what if we find a way around that? If we, like you
But
said...
hold on.
Okay.
Talking about low skill, I actually want to kind of take a tangent.
Yeah, go for it.
Have you ever thought about how to put groceries in a bag? Have you thought about that?